Our sponsors: the Finkley Experience, an educational consulting firm that specializes in first-generation education, in which prepares high school students for college. For more information, visit their website at thefinkleyexperience.com. Father to Father Incorporated, a nonprofit organization that strengthens families through father engagement, with a goal to help men in our communities to be great dads. For more information, visit their website, fathertofatherinc.org. ABLAZE Entertainment. The goal of ABLAZE is to take emerging artists and develop them to the next level of their career. For more information, visit their website at ablazeentertainment.net. Thank you. Hey Think Fam, it's your favorite host, Michael Finkley, and you can listen to us on CTR Media Network. Go listen in. It's finally here. My brand new single, Biggest Dream Come True. Now available on all streaming platforms.
Hi, I'm Eric Hansen, actor, producer, and director, and you are watching The Michael Finkley Show.
On the next Michael Finkley, co-founder of E-Entertainment, Larry Namer is here. He gives us in-depth information about how he got started in this business, how he was able to start a network today now worth millions of dollars. He talks projects, future plans, and so much more, Think Fam. Next, Finkley.
There's a new familiar face this time. Say hello to the new daytime. See it everywhere you go. New and the greatest show. It's no other than the Michael Finkley Show. There is no other. He's like no other. I'm so glad that someone resonates with me. Come celebrate with me. Let's turn into Michael.
Welcome back to the Michael Finkley Show. Now, y'all, my next guest, I know you know who he is. He is the man himself when it comes down to entertainment, the co-founder of E-Entertainment. He is Larry Namer. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
You are so welcome. Again, thank you for just being with us these few moments, because I feel my viewers can learn something from you. I can learn something from you, and hopefully in the midst of you talking, you're like, oh, I didn't realize that about myself. So I'm ready to have the conversation.
Well, if you stay around long enough, you end up having made all the mistakes and they're behind you. So hopefully you learn from them.
That's the goal, though. That's the goal, is to learn, right? That's the goal, is to learn. So let's go all the way back, Larry, all the way back there to New York. How did your upbringing in New York shape the person we see today as this mogul in entertainment?
I grew up in Brooklyn before it was trendy Brooklyn. The area I grew up in is still considered the hood, Coney Island. It's a rough neighborhood, but we were poor, but we didn't know it because we all were the same. Yeah. And it was a great time to grow up there because it truly was a mixed neighborhood. And we didn't really think of like, oh, this guy's black, this guy's Puerto Rican. It was just, we all played in the street together. So it was a great time to grow up there. And what's interesting, I ended up going to high school, public high school there. And, it was the neighborhood school, not a special school or anything. And it's very strange that to this day, it's the #1 school in America for turning out Nobel Prize winners, which is crazy. So on that hand, you had Nobel Prize winners. On, then the other side, you had, people that got into entertainment like myself. Lou Gossett Jr. was the neighbor across the street. Neil Diamond went to the school. You name it, they all kind of came out of there. And, the commonality is we were all children of World War II parents. Most of us were the children of immigrants. And, growing up as a kid of an immigrant those days was like, you're going to succeed or I'm going to beat it out of you.
Yeah, no choice.
My parents were tough and stuff, but not abusive tough and whatever. They just wanted the kids to have a better life than they did, and they were going to push us and stuff. So that's kind of the common thing. So that's where I grew up, and I ended up going to school in Brooklyn, and I was the first kid in the family to go to college. Certainly the first kid to graduate, and I ended up getting a degree in economics, and I was going to teach history, but the New York City school system and I didn't see eye to eye on what history really was. They wanted me to teach their version, and I didn't believe their version. So we parted ways, thank God. And, I took what I thought was going to be a kind of a mindless temporary job. Somebody said we just organized, unionized this thing called cable TV. We're not quite sure what it is, but, go see this guy. And so they gave me a job splicing cables in the sewers of Manhattan.
Wow.
But I wasn't even the real splicer. I was the assistant to the splicer. And I think I was the only person with a college degree in the company then. And so literally every day I would go under the streets of New York with the roaches and the rats and put wires together, and $90 a week and stuff like that. But I loved it. I thought it was a great job. And so that's kind of my introduction to the cable TV world. And then I really started to go, wait a second, this could be really cool if they do it right. And the company got bought by Time Incorporated. Time was a magazine company at that time. And this was way before Time Warner. And they decided that they wanted to spend 10 years migrating themselves from being a publishing company to becoming a media company. Really? So it was time to be there because it was kind of the beginning of it all. And so I got put into what was called the video group. And, I don't know, maybe there were 10 of us in the video group. I was by far the youngest. And, by that time I had rose to become the director of operations. So I went from under the sewer system to the director of operations.
That's a big leap, Larry.
Yeah. And I was like 25 years old, and I was director of operations of Manhattan Cable, the biggest cable system in the US. And I think I had like 305 people report to me, all of which were older, which was an interesting dynamic.
I could only imagine.
And, but, it was a great time to be there because it was like when we started home box office and Cinemax and using satellites. Nobody ever used satellites before. This guy, Jerry Levin, who was part of the video group, who ran HBO, said, oh, we're going to do satellites. And we all looked at him and go, what the hell are satellites, And, but HBO took off and urban cable took off. And, that was kind of where I grew up there. And I ended up spending my 10 years there. And I was the director of corporate development. And I was supposed to find new and inventive uses of cable television other than just providing good, silly programming.
Right.
And it was great. So, even before the internet, I was doing data communications and, remote medical diagnostics, just all kinds of crazy stuff. And so that kind of opened my mind up to like what all the possibilities were.
Wow. So you used what you learned to establish what you wanted to in the future.
Yeah, it was a great training ground because it was very corporate. So, they were all Harvard and Yale's. And, so it was very corporate discipline. So I really learned about financing and money and managing and, all of that kind of stuff. And, because I was so young and in, such a visible position for them, they were always worried that I might say the wrong thing to the press. So they made me go through media training pretty extensively.
Really?
And, which was great because it kind of got me comfortable. I mean, I could talk now to one-on-one. I could talk to 5,000 people. It doesn't affect me whatsoever. Yeah. And that was a great thing to learn. But then what happened was I got my 10 years in, And I said, oh my God, I'm going to invest in the pension fund. And I'm like 30 years old. I said, there's got to be more to life than this. And it was just then that all the big cities were thinking about cable now because they realized it was more than just good reception. Mm-hmm. And there was a company that won the franchise for Los Angeles. And but the caveat that they had was they got the franchise, but they had to build it underground, not on telephone poles. Well, all the cable systems in the country were all built on telephone poles except Manhattan Cable. So they had no choice but to like find me and say, come out here. And, you know, and I was just an arrogant, you know, son of a bee at that point. And I just said, look, I'm a Brooklyn kid. I don't come to La La Land. I'm not doing that. And they finally just said to me, they go, well, what would it take to get you to move? And I just named like 4 times what I was making. And they went, that's absurd. That's ridiculous. No. And I went, yeah, okay, cool. Bye. Adios. And, but then, you know, a few weeks later, they did call back. And it was like a cold winter and, you know, living in New York. And, you know, it's beautiful the day it snows, but the day after it's all black gook. And, you know, cab comes by and splashes like cold snow all over me. And yeah, I was just going, what am I doing here, you know? And then they called and said, look, what you asked for is ridiculous, but how fast could you get out of here? And I went, okay. And, you know, I just literally walked into my boss then, Manhattan Cable, and said, you know, I'm done. I'm out of here. Look at me. I'm covered in shit. And he said, come on, you want a new office chair? What do we need to do to keep you? And I went, there's nothing. I said, unless you can provide me sunshine 360 days a year, I'm gone. I'm out of here. And wow. I literally packed up and left and went. And, you know, it was kind of interesting because, you know, Manhattan, I was in charge of all the, you know, the technical operas, construction and installation and service and all of that stuff. But I didn't have programming. I didn't have finance or whatever. But when I came out to California to build Valley Cable, first, it was the first 61-channel two-way cable system ever built in America. You know, and again, I was the ripe old age of 30. And, you know, they basically handed me a franchise paper and said, here's what you got to build. And by the way, here's the credit line with Toronto Dominion Bank. Have fun. See you. And they disappeared. And, you know, literally all the company, including legal and everything, reported to me. So I had to grow up really fast.
Very quickly. Wow. Wow, but you did it though. You did it.
Yeah, I did it. And, you know, sometimes it's better not to be so smart and, you know, to figure stuff out. And, you know, a lot of it is just my street sense and stuff. So we very quickly became, Forbes magazine named us as the national model for cable programming because we were just doing innovative stuff because we didn't know we were supposed to do it a different way. So the stuff we were doing was very different than, you know, what other folks were doing. And we got a lot of recognition for it. We won Emmy Awards and ACE Awards and stuff like that. So again, it was fun.
I see. I can tell it was fun because look at the product we have today that we're still viewing and we're still watching. It's still monumentous in this industry. So entertainment, right? As you began to build this amazing industry, did you know that you were breaking grounds on so many different ways?
The answer is yes. My partner, Alan Marufka, you know, who's my friend from New Jersey, you know, when the company that I worked for sold out and they decided to go back to Canada, they wanted me to go to Toronto. And I went, whoa, whoa, whoa. I had to go from Brooklyn to LA to go to Canada. I said, I'm done with snow. I'm staying here. So you know, I said, Alan and I were saying, okay, let's come up with something that, you know, keeps us here. And, you know, when you're a Brooklyn kid and you're in LA, everybody's going to parties and premieres and actors and actresses and making movies. And, you know, and we just said, you know what? There used to be the weather on TV. So at 11:25 at night, you would watch the weather to find out what you needed to wear tomorrow. And then all of a sudden the Weather Channel came, 24 hours a day of weather, anytime you wanted it. And news, the news used to be on at 6 o'clock or 11 o'clock. And then CNN came and you had news anytime. We said, all these people that love this Hollywood stuff, why do they need to get 15 seconds on Entertainment Tonight when we could create a whole channel? So we basically said, let's do MTV of the movies.
Wow. Wow. Again, I think about when you're speaking about this, right? It was just something, I feel like it was just an idea, right? Idea that it came to mind and you were like, let's just do it. What's the worst that can happen?
Well, it turned out to be a lot harder than we thought. We thought it was such a great idea. And everybody we talked to said, yeah, that's a great idea, but you're not Rupert Murdoch. You're not Ted Turner. People don't wake up and start TV channels. Nobody's ever done it before. And why should we believe you two guys will do it? And we weren't smart enough to listen. And at that time, the going kind of cost to start a TV network was somewhere between $60 and $100 million. I mean, now it's way higher.
Of course.
But, it took us 3.5 years and we didn't raise 10 cents. And then we realized there was nobody out there going to give us $60 or $100 million. Mm-hmm. And then we met someone who turned us on to a banker on Wall Street who had just gotten his job in investment banking. And he was looking for deals. And we met with him and he's like, oh, I love this. I used to be the entertainment reporter for my college newspaper. And we were like, yeah. He goes, I'm going to do this deal. And I was like, okay, great. Could you give us more like the 100 million and the 60 so we could do all the things we really want to do? And he went, oh, no, I can't do that. I'm only allowed to sign for 2.5. I went, well, what are we supposed to do with 2.5 million? It costs like minimum 60. And he goes, I'm only allowed to sign for 2.5. Sal and I looked at each other and said, you know what? We're two smart guys. We're going to figure it out.
Right.
So we took the $2.5 million. And I had a friend who was teaching radio, television, film at Austin, Texas, UT. And I called him up and I said, hey, you got a bunch of kids that need intern jobs. And he went, yeah, we had a hard time placing kids this year. I said, send them all. We rented apartments. We bought mattresses. And so E really started, we started out under the name Movie Time. And then we changed the name a little bit after. But E started with 11 employees and 31 interns. And then my friend wanted to kill me, actually, because half of the kids never went back. They started in the summer. They were interns in the summer, and by the fall, they were vice presidents. Because as soon as it went on the air, everybody went, oh, my God, why don't you tell us that's what you want to do? We would have given you the money 3 years ago. It's always like that.
And the light bulb clicked on years later.
Yeah. Well, once you saw it, to Alan and I, it was so obvious. People around the world love Hollywood gossip. They love Hollywood disasters. They love all the Hollywood stories. So here we had, the opportunity to develop them in detail. And, people were real interested in, how the business works and not just, what movies coming out, but like how movies get financed and, all of that. And we were able to do that because we had 24 hours a day. Gotcha. And, we started very simply, if you look at MTV back in the early days when they actually did music videos, mm-hmm. They had a host in front of a screen and Madonna has a new video. Mm-hmm. Oh, we said we could stand a host in front of a screen and go, and Schwarzenegger has a new movie. We said it's the same arm movement. I mean, right. And people loved it. And then, we started getting into other stuff. We, the first show we really did was Talk Soup.
Mm-hmm. And, I remember that.
With Greg Kinnear.
Yeah.
And, people said, Larry, you're out of your mind. You want to do a TV show that makes fun of TV shows. And I'm like, yeah, exactly.
Why not?
And, we had Greg and, Greg was wonderful. You couldn't have had a better host, for that show than Greg. And I think, there are probably, almost 20 people that have hosted that. The show ran 26 years. From my crazy, silly idea, a 26-year run was pretty good. And, so that did good. And then we went on, Al and I met this radio guy in an elevator in New York, and he was telling us about his show. And we were like, yeah. Of course, you're the biggest thing we've ever. And he goes, no, come and watch. And, we did. And then, we went back to the team in LA and said, hey, we want to put cameras in this guy's radio show. And they were like, Larry, radio's been dead for 40 years. Why would we do that? I go, you guys don't understand. This is the reality show of KRP in Cincinnati. I said, this is an ensemble comedy show. And, that was Howard Stern. And, so that went and did good. And, and again, Alan and I always looked at it and said, Hollywood is funny stuff. Don't try and make believe it's like rocket science or stuff like that. So he did, Wild on E and Hollywood True Story. It was very irreverent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's amazing. As you were talking again, I was thinking about the times where I was watching E growing up. And at certain times, you had to have a certain package in your cable selection to get E. And we didn't always have it because we couldn't afford that part. But as time went on, it became more selective, and we were able to watch it in its entirety. And I really loved I love the whole documentary aspect. Yeah. So I really loved the whole True Hollywood stories and all that kind of good. Just seeing the behind the scenes things of people and how they were brought up, and that really opened my eyes up to me even having my own show today. So it really paved the way for a lot of individuals. I can only imagine, Larry, that there are a lot of no's in this process as well. How did you handle those no's?
Before we found that one guy that wrote the $2.5 million check, we were rejected, I think, 71 times.
Wow.
Where we went in and pitched and were told, get out of here. And again, it was always, you're not Rupert Murdoch, go away. There was even one meeting that we went to where we sat in the conference room and the main guy came in like an hour late. I mean, just had to sit there. I mean, totally rude. And he came in the room and with carrying the business plan. Again, you had to print the business plan in those days, and it was like that thick. And he just sat down and he said, who had the nerve to send me this piece of garbage, and throws the business plan at my head? And I'm like, I didn't get me. And, I just said, okay, this guy obviously is not buying. But then again, I'm a Brooklyn kid. I ain't letting people throw stuff at my head. So I was just like, blah, 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 blah. And we went back and forth for like 20 minutes, like yelling at each other. And he just looked at us and said, I like it. I'm in for $500,000. And I went, what? And he walked out of the room and he gave us $500,000.
That's crazy to go through all that and say, here's some money, goodbye. Wow.
It was crazy. But, if you look at it now, everybody talks about influencers and all of that kind of stuff. E is now in 142 countries. Yeah. On any given day, E reaches 100 times more people than the biggest influencers on the internet. Think about that. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, Larry. So from the E that was started way back when to now, are you pleased with the progress that E has done over the years?
So this is your Louisiana girl, Denise Boutte, coming at you on the Michael Finkley Show. And you guys may know me from Why Did I Get Married as the really sweet girl Trina, or maybe Meet the Browns as Sasha. But I'm coming at you guys from the great state of California, but originally from Louisiana, because I can't lose that Southern girl, baby. All right, you guys stay tuned to Michael Finkley.
On the next Michael Finkley, from Tyler Perry's Have and Have Nots, actor Patrick Fawcett is with us. And from the motion picture Million to One, actor Michael J. Patterson. Next Finkley. Hello everybody, it's Finkley from the Finkley Experience. We're an educational consulting firm that specializes in first-generation education. So we assist students with their college and career endeavors. We train school administrators on the state of first-generation students. And also, we partner with colleges and universities to assist their first-generation population for easy transition from high school to college. So if you're looking for a presenter or speaker that presents on these topics and so much more, visit our website at thefinkleyexperience.com and learn about all that we do. We're looking forward to working with you. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Hey, did you get your merch yet? Your Michael Finkley merch. Visit our website, michaelfinkley.com, and click Finkley Store. You won't be disappointed, I'm telling you. That's good.
Welcome to Father to Father.
The mission of Father to Father Charleston, South Carolina is to help fathers in the Low Country area of South Carolina to be a positive and consistent presence in their children's lives. Father to Father provides community-based programs and support groups for fathers free of charge. They also help fathers connect to other resources they need so they can meet their responsibilities and secure their parental rights. Father to Father offers job coaching and employment connections that benefit fathers. Father to Father is a resource for local organizations that want to provide family support and father-friendly services. If this program is a fit for you, visit our location in North Charleston, South Carolina, and meet our friendly staff here to help and assist. Or visit our website at fathertofatherinc.org. Let me ask you this, Larry. So from the eve that was started way back when to now, are you pleased with the progress that E has done over the years?
Some of it, yes, some of it, no.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think, the folks that followed me, because I kind of got tired of being the corporate guy. I'm a creative, and, I was spending all my time in like legal and board meetings and budgets, and I just said, you know what, I'm going to get somebody to do that other stuff, and I'm going to go and play international and do all of that. So some of the stuff, yes, the people that followed me did a really good job, in the day-to-day. Some of the stuff I wasn't happy with. When the Anna Nicole show was on, I thought, I said, guys, you're pushing this girl too hard. I said, you're going to cause her to have a nervous breakdown, more than a nervous breakdown. She died. Yeah. I said, you can't keep pushing her the way you're pushing her. And, it turned out not well. Yeah, but then you look at the Kardashians and, there's a story that probably will never be replicated in our lifetime again. I mean, it's amazing. It's a multi-billion-dollar brand that was built on E.
Exactly. And how much is it worth today?
E? Mm-hmm. It's about $5.2 billion, yeah.
$5.2 billion in a network. Wow, that's just fantastic.
Yeah. Our investors were very happy.
I know. But, Larry, I must say, please tell us the Oscar story, because you tried, when you first began, you tried to go into these different arenas and you weren't as welcome as you are now, but please tell us this Oscar story.
Yeah, well, in our first year, we got out there, we were doing pretty well. And, we actually were able to buy a camera and do all of that stuff. And, of course, we started with like corporate industrial equipment. We didn't have enough money for broadcast equipment. So, we would buy it from like companies who were shooting their training videos. And so the Oscars were coming up and we applied for press credentials. And we got this very rude no-go way, going, you're some dopey little cable system. No, you can't get it. So again, not knowing how you take no for an answer, we just gathered the crew, we climbed over the fence, and we snuck in. So here we are on the red carpet interviewing people and doing that. And then security caught us and they threw us out. But we had so much great footage. And again, it was very different than, Entertainment Tonight would be, so tell us about your next project. We were like, hey, what are you wearing? And we just took this whole different approach there, and it's like, instead of tell us about your next project, you go, what do you do with your kids on the weekend? Mm-hmm. And people just loved it. And they said, it looks like you took us in some place that we didn't belong. And I said, yeah, actually, we didn't belong, but, whatever. So that kind of, helped us because people saw it and they loved it. And they said, oh, we see the kind of stuff you guys can do. And, then when the studio started polling people and say, how did you decide what movie to go see this weekend? It was like 1%, 3%, 7%. No, we got up to like 25% of the people who were going to the movies saying, I decided based on what I saw on E. And then all of a sudden the studios were like, hey, we're shooting a movie in Brazil. Would you like to come? And that kind of helped blow it up. And
yeah, you're a trendsetter, my friend. Definitely a trendsetter, what we see today and how the other networks have followed that path even today. But Larry, even more so now, being a creative being, you took your talents abroad. Tell us about those different experiences and projects that were successful abroad.
Yeah, sure. I decided, I got to go to places where Rupert Murdoch doesn't mean anything. So I went to Russia and, just kind of as a joke. And, I was still at the E and started doing stuff in Russia. And, it was just when they were going through the transformation from, this communist government economy to, whatever they became. And I met the mayor of St. Petersburg, and the mayor of St. Petersburg said, hey, could you help me start a charity for the Children's Hospital and the orphanage, because we're having a hard time getting money sent from Moscow to help us keep these things going. So we want to start a music festival. And I was like, no, I don't really do music. And they went, well, you got to know more than we do. And I went, okay, yeah, that's probably true. So we put together this thing called the White Nights Festival. Every year, it's 6 days, June 16th to 21st. We would do this music festival. We would bring major acts from David Bowie to Ringo Starr to Sheryl Crow, you name it. We brought them there. And we, over this 6-day music festival, we would raise 100% of the budget for the Children's Hospital and the orphanage. And, then people in the music business here were going, help us set up a concert for Paul McCartney. And I went, nah, I don't do music. And they went, oh, when you needed us for your music festival, you did music, right? And so we ended up with a concert company that we did about 305 concerts, like major stuff, even 3 tenors on Red Square and things like that. And, and that festival ran 31 years. It stopped literally 2 years ago when this Ukraine thing started, because there's nobody that's going to go to Russia while the war is going on. And, so I was there, and then I decided that, well, this is fun. And, Russian people are too serious and have too many problems. Instead of reading Dostoevsky all day, let's give them soap operas. So we launched a soap opera there that was on 5 nights a week. And it ran 10 years. It was the #1 and #2 show in Russia for 10 years, which is crazy, but it did. And then I actually married the former president of Russia's niece. And so I married Brezhnev's niece, and we have a cute little Sasha who's now in Boston College. And when we divorced, I said, hey, your family comes from Russia. You keep the Russia company, and I'll take, the U.S. company. And so I just said, okay, where else can I go? And it was just then I got called in by the Chinese government because I helped the Russians rewrite media legislation. It's like, if you're going to bring in a Western economy, you have to have marketing opportunities that look a little bit familiar to Western marketers. So it's not like if you know the right person in the Communist Party, you do whatever you feel like. So I had come in and helped the Russians do media reform. And then when the Chinese realized they needed to do the same thing if they were going to build an economy, they went to the Russians and said, hey, could you help us? And the Russians went, no, 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 there's a guy in LA that helped us. And so I got called in by the Chinese government. And, so I helped the Chinese rewrite media reform. And then they asked me if I would teach, and this is a quote, young television executives the process of creativity for profit, which I did. And, and then kind of the guys that run the day-to-day there, if you had a profile it, they're 40 to 50, went to Harvard and Yale and Stanford and stuff like that. So they believe in the cause, but they're not the heavy-duty doctrine guys. Those are like 70-year-old guys. And they said, Larry, why don't you start a media company here so we could learn from you? And I went, you don't let Western media companies in here. And they went, no, we just don't let the ones we don't like. Like, okay, why are you going to be so kind to me? And they went, it's really simple. When we have a fight with Rupert Murdoch, it's front page of the Wall Street Journal. We have a fight with you. We go out for drinks. We yell at each other all night. But tomorrow we're good. They said, we'd rather do it that way for now. I went, okay, that's pretty honest. I get it. So started this media company in China. And it's still going. We still, I don't get to go as often since COVID, but the company's doing fine. And we do films, we do TV shows, we do internet content, we do stuff for brands that, Western brands that are looking to get in the market and build their brand awareness. And now the big thing we're doing is, I don't know if you've seen here in the US, they have these immersive Van Gogh, these immersive experiences where you go in a room and you kind of like living inside the Van Gogh paintings and stuff like that. It's a huge phenomenon in the US. It's really brought younger folks back into the world of art and culture because they don't teach it in school anymore. And, you can't tell a kid, here's a book on, Vincent van Gogh, go read it. That's nothing. But you bring them into this immersive thing and sound and lights and digital and whatever, and they get into it. And so it's kind of expanded that. So we're doing those in China. And probably the most fun thing that happened for me in China, and it's funny because people always ask me the question, what's your biggest success story? And they expect me to say E. And, financially, yeah, it's E. But I decided that even though I've never written comedy or produced comedy in my life, I'm going to do comedy. So I wrote a comedy about the contradictions of modern Chinese life, which is basically what happens when you have incredible economic growth in a short period of time and people's social skills don't grow as quickly as their bank account. We've seen it with the Russians and the Arabs with the gold chains and the Gucci this and Prada that, pink Porsches and Ferraris and all of that stuff. So I wrote this comedy. And it was kind of funny because I gave it to my, and I write the story. I can't write dialogue in China.
Gotcha.
And so I gave it to our partner there, a woman in China named Jean. And she said, I love this. Could I take it to the TV station? I went, yeah, sure, go ahead. She comes back. She says, I took it to the big TV station, CCTV 8 in China, reaches 1.1 billion homes. It's crazy. And she said, I took it to the head of station. He really likes it. And he asked to have dinner with the writer. And Tuesday night, we're going to dinner with Mr. or whatever his name was. So I'm sitting there and they come in and the guy looks at me. And I know enough Mandarin that he's going, no, I want to meet the writer. This is a white guy. And, I'm going, do you really think so? And he goes, and the guy went to school in the West. He goes, no, I didn't mean any offense. He said, but when I read the story, it was so insightful into modern Chinese life that I never thought that it could be written by anybody who wasn't Chinese. And he goes, but you're an American and we're Communist Party TV. We can't put this on television. I went, oh, okay, whatever. But 2 weeks later, he called back and said, okay, I spoke to the propaganda department because they do have a propaganda department. And they said, yeah, they know who you are. You're okay. They said, but they really love the message of the story, which is not it's got to be rich or got to be poor or city or rural. It's about finding the balance in life. It's about finding happy as opposed to, getting a new gold bracelet or, whatever. And they said, if we want to do it, we can do it. And I said, okay, what does that mean? He goes, let's do the series. So I ended up doing the series, and we ended up doing 72 episodes of this story. It was called Return to the Village of Good Fortune. And it ends up getting nominated in the Best Sitcom category at the Asia TV Awards in Singapore. Now, the interesting part is that it was the only comedy from China nominated. And I said, wait a second. I said, how cool is this? I wrote a comedy in a language I don't speak for a culture I didn't grow up in, and it's now considered the funniest TV show to come out of China.
That's mind-blowing.
I said, yeah. I said, think about the funniest TV show in China is written by a New York Jew. It doesn't get any better than that. So to me, that's like the magic moment. But if it was financial, it's E, of course.
That's mind-blowing, Larry. It is. It is like, it's so different, but it's unique, and it worked. It worked tremendously.
Yeah. So, that's the one that I look at even today, and I go, how did I do that? And that one amazed. E to me was logical. People like Hollywood gossip and train wrecks. I get it. Yeah. So we executed it very well, and we did really well in building the company. But to write a comedy that I've never written comedy before in a language I don't speak is like crazy.
That is crazy. That is crazy. I must ask, in all that you've done across seas, in the States, all the awards that you've won, do you find yourself a success?
Yes, in a way. I mean, I look at it and go, okay, it's the biggest influencer on the planet, pop culture. So that's a success. But, I still believe my best stuff is in front of me. It's not behind. People go, why are you doing this? And I'm going, well, what would I do? Go play golf? I said, I don't like that. So I still think there's a lot of fun stuff. I'm enamored. I've always been looking at not what was, but I like looking at what's next. And that's kind of been my history. I was in cable before cable was cool, and pay TV before, and internet before. And, now I'm very much into the new economy. I'm into crypto and NFTs and metaverse and blockchain and all of that kind of stuff. And so, that keeps me going. And again, I think my best stuff is somewhere in front of me, not behind me. I mean, like, people don't, my kids get a kick out of it because my kids and I, we listen to the same music and watch the same TV shows, and they're going like, you're not like any other dad. And I'm going, because I don't want to listen to 80s oldies. I'm like listening to like Little Nas and, stuff like that. Right. I said, I like it.
Right. And you listen to what you like. You do what you like. Yeah. There's no box. There's no box. And that's what people do. They put us in boxes to say that you should like this because you're this age or you act this way. No, let me be me. I'm going to be me. I if you don't understand that, then so be it. But I'm going to be me. How do you stay focused? Because you've done so much. A lot of people in your position, like you said, they've done so much in your past. They have the big head, right? But how do you stay grounded?
Well, first, growing up where I did and how I did, my parents were, they were tough. And, so that's it. And, a lot of it is, I'm still friends with my friends from high school. Like, people think that I'm going to be friends with Rupert Murdoch or whatever. And so I don't relate to those people. I relate to my friends from high school. So that's my happy place, is when we go out to eat in Brooklyn and stuff like that. I still think of myself as a Coney Island kid. Like, I go to Nathan's for hot dogs, and, I love eating pizza in Brooklyn and stuff like that. So, the rest of it is interesting, and it certainly has its advantages. Don't get me wrong. You know, and now I get invited to every Hollywood party and stuff, and I have actresses that want to date me and, you know, stuff like that. But, you know, to me, it's like, you know, like, what does it really mean, in, you know, in the scheme of life?
Exactly. When you're not creating, how does Larry spend his days?
I go to the gym a lot. I go to the gym literally 6 days a week.
Nice.
I do an hour, no more, no less. I just do an hour.
That's all you need.
It's great, and I never have an excuse for not doing it.
Right.
Because you could always find an hour, maybe sometimes in the morning, sometimes at night. But my passion is cooking. I've been cooking since I'm 12. My mother was a horrible cook, terrible. And my mother and my father both worked. So my choice was learn how to cook yourself or eat peanut butter and jelly for dinner every night. So I learned how to cook, and I said, hey, I like this. And I started reading cookbooks. And then when I was in college, I actually got a job in a Chinese restaurant delivering the food, which meant you go in the kitchen, you pick up the bags, and this was before, you know, DoorDash and those things. And I just love cooking, and I would always ask the guys in the kitchen, teach me how to do this and teach me how to do that. And, you know, they just thought it was the funniest thing to teach the Caucasian kid how to cook Chinese food. And so I learned how to cook Chinese, and then I went, I did that for 2 years, and then I went and cooked in an Italian restaurant. And then after that, I've always either taken short courses in cooking, or I literally buy a cookbook every month, and I learn something new from every cookbook. And so I'm good now. I could cook anything. Even here's another funny Chinese thing. In China, when I started doing, we go out to eat, and they go, well, let us show you how you use the chopsticks. And I'm like, no, let me show you how to use the chopsticks. You know, and then they would talk about certain foods, and I would say, oh yeah, this is the way you cook that. And they were like, how do you know all this? So I ended up having a cooking show in China, which was loosely titled The White Boy Cooks Chinese Food. And, you know, it was on Beijing TV, and they had a crew follow me around and stuff like that. You know, it was hilarious. I loved it, but I couldn't do it. I mean, I had like real work to do. I couldn't do it all the time. But yeah, so that was fun. And, you know, even now in LA, you know, people fight to get an invite to my dinner parties because I do like 12 people, and, you know, and I cook like good stuff.
What's your specialty?
I think what amazes people the most is Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because they can't, you know, how do you know how to cook Chinese? And I don't want to go into the whole long story. I could do Brooklyn Italian really well. You know, Brooklyn Italian was immigrant Italian, with red sauce and stuff, not California foo-foo Italian. You know, we never put duck on our pizza. You know, and so I do Italian good, but now, you know, I've started lately playing around with Croatian food, you know, which is kind of fun, and because it's a hybrid between Italian, Hungarian, whatever. I like Mexican. I could do Mexican pretty well. Okay. So pretty much I've done almost everything, you know, to some degree, and but I'm really good in like the European cuisines and stuff, French, Italian, Croatian, Serbian, all of that stuff.
Now I gotta ask this, because being from the South, you know, we know about a little bit of cooking down here as well. Do you know any Southern dishes?
Yeah, I do. The South cracks me up. I love, you know, now these days I try and eat healthy.
I got you.
And you know, I go down south, like I'll go to like Houston or something, you know, they're right on the Gulf, and they catch all this fresh fish. And what do they do with it? They fry it. I'm going, no, that's the, you know, everything fried this and fried that. So yeah, I learned New Orleans cooking. I've learned a lot of Southern. I'm a huge fried chicken fan. I can do fried chicken in a whole bunch of different ways. But, you know, when you get to things like fried pickles and fried Snickers bars, I'm going like, why would you do that?
Because it's fried.
for the most part, I try and eat healthy these days because, like I say, I go to the gym a lot, and I now equate bad food with pain. I go, okay, if I eat that, it's like 2 hours on the treadmill. Nah, I don't want to do that. So, like, I'll eat like fish or chicken or something.
I gotcha. That makes sense to me. Keep on cooking. Keep on cooking, Larry. Keep on cooking. So, in the future, do you see yourself creating another media company in the future?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, first of all, I wake up every morning with 10 new ideas. By the time I go to sleep, I realize that usually the 10 are all pretty dopey, but every once in a while I have a good one. So I'm doing this thing now. Actually, the writer's strike is now in Hollywood. You know, the writers are all on strike, and coming out of the creative community, I would never do anything that would jeopardize, you know, my brothers on the picket lines and stuff. So I was going to do an award show in June, but now we're moving it to the fall because hopefully the writer's strike will be over.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, when I watch the Golden Globes this year, the award shows haven't come to recognize that the geography of the media business has changed. It used to be the US centric and there was nothing else. You know, now the US is like only 30% of the box office. I mean, China's bigger, and, you know, great movies coming out of Turkey and Germany and all over the world. There's good stuff happening. So they've never really realized that the world has changed and they should change. You know, like you look at the Academy Awards, it's like, you know, one category, foreign film. Everything else is, I go, you know, and when I looked at the Golden Globes, first of all, the Golden Globes used to be run by the Hollywood Foreign Press. So at least there was a somewhat objective group that was picking the awards, and they were foreign, so hopefully it was more inclusive of foreign stuff. But they sold it to a finance company. So now it's not, you know, anything. And then if you watched it, it was basically, this year was it was almost like an apology for 50 years of like ignoring African Americans. And it was so over the top. I'm going, this is so wrong. The award should be based on the best of the best. I don't care where they come from. I don't care what color they are. We should recognize the best work. Plain and simple. No politics, no nothing in it. So, and then, you know, you looked at the Academy Awards, and it was basically an apology to Asians. And I went, okay, yeah, you've been shitty to Asians for so many years, but now to just pick a movie that I thought was okay, but say this is the best movie of the year, to me, it wasn't the best movie of the year. It was kind of there trying to make friends with the Asian community again. I mean, there was a movie that came out of Germany called All's Quiet on the Western Front. And the movie was in German, and it was brilliant. It was by far the best movie of the year. But I said, it can't win because it's a foreign film. And, you know, so I said, okay, you know, I'm going to take this on myself. So we started, myself and a guy named Chris Nook, who really comes out of the tech world, the financial tech world. We're starting something called the Nifties, NFTYS. And it's let's call it the Oscars of the metaverse. So, you know, just like the music industry resisted digital music for years, much to their detriment. You know, technology is going to come, and if it's good for the people, it's going to win. You know, I mean, now everything's streaming or whatever, and it's great. And, you know, there's some inequalities there that need to be dealt with, you know, between artists and the people that control the, you know, the platforms. But you can't hold back technology that's good for the consumer. It's just not going to happen. So you look at, you know, the NFTs in the metaverse and stuff. This is going to happen whether Hollywood or the media world wants it to happen or not. So rather than fight it, you know, my feeling is get behind it and become part of the change, and make sure that it's done right. And so we're doing this award show. We were going to do it in June, but now we're moving it because I won't do it during the writer's strike. And it really recognizes the best work in NFTs and AI and, metaverse and stuff like that. And hopefully we'll get to do it in the fall. If not, but I mean, we're going to do it. I mean, we're well organized now and stuff like that. But it really is, we had to form our own academy. So we've got a pretty diverse academy. So it really is diverse and inclusive, from people all over the world. And it's a recognition that, this is a global business, not a US centric business. And it's not white, it's not black, it's not this or that. It's the most creative people should be celebrated. But some of the stuff we're doing is pretty cool. So out of this studio in Las Vegas, it's the most advanced studio I've ever seen. So built on top of a Zoom platform, they built the software so that we could do 570 million simultaneous live streams. So, so it could go out pretty wide. And in order to get one of the streams, you need to buy the NFT or the token. And really what that is, if you went to a concert or you went to a play, you always got this program. It was like your memorabilia. So the token gets recorded on the blockchain. So it really shows that you were there and you went to the first NFT awards ever to be. And that stands for that stands for all time. So nobody could ever dispute that you were there. And that's your admission into it. And, and one of the things that's interesting, like you look at the Woodstock 1969, there were 500,000 people who were there roughly. But yet when somebody did polling of people around the world, 20 million people claimed that they were there. So how do you validate and authenticate a lot of stuff? So we're doing that. And then the nice part is in China where they don't let you stream direct to the home. So we deliver one of the 570,000 feeds and they rebroadcast it. So they're going to get somewhere between 3 and 7 million people picking up off of one feed. So we've got that. And then on the rebroadcast, I have 193 million homes around the world carrying the rebroadcast. And, some of the fun stuff, I'm using artificial intelligence. So when the host speaks English, when the feed goes into France, the host is speaking French. When the feed goes into Spain, the host is speaking not just Spanish, but Spain Spanish, the dialect. When he goes into Mexico, the host is speaking Mexican Spanish. And AI is so sophisticated now, in this stuff that you can't see you don't know that he's speaking English. He's speaking that language. And I think we're up to now, we're going to go out at about 34 different languages. And which is kind of fun, incredible. And then we have the ability to mint NFTs literally on the fly. So when the host is going to be wearing a dress, I have a friend of mine who's a really cool designer named Richie Rich. Richie is a huge figure in the LGBTQI plus community. And he dresses Gaga and late Katy Perry, and he dressed Madonna and on and on. So he's going to dress the host, but we're going to be able to mint that dress. So somebody could buy the physical dress, but also buy the digital version of the dress. So if you want to dress your avatar like Lady Gaga, you could buy that NFT and it gets recorded. So nobody could ever question its authenticity because it's recorded on the blockchain. We have some singers. There's a young kid from named A.Y. Young, who's a young rapper, and he represents sustainability for the UN. And he goes around the world, singing and trying to get young people to pay attention to the fact that we're screwing up the planet. And so he's going to do original music, and we're going to be able to mint that version of that song and sell it, and the money will go to the UN to do this education stuff. And he doesn't have to give up any of his rights. So the artist still maintains the rights, which is really cool. So, we're doing that kind of stuff, a lot of fun stuff.
That is fun. Oh my gosh. I love how you continue to dream and you make those dreams come to life. And that's one thing that's why I started my platform. This is my biggest dream come true. Now I have to continue to dream bigger. Larry, what is your next biggest dream?
My next biggest dream, uh, other than perfecting my Peking duck recipe, um,
I love it.
I really like this building this academy and the award show because I really do think it's a game changer. Again, I've done stuff all over the world and I know people all over the world. I grew up in a very mixed neighborhood and stuff like that. And I think it's time for the media world to adapt to the fact that it's different now than it was 30 years ago in every way. So, building this award and this academy to truly be diverse and inclusive and fair. And again, it's not favor this one or make up for past mistakes. It's the people that do the best work should be recognized, and there should be no other consideration. So that does it for me. I'm kind of in what I call my Kardashians repentance phase, where doing socially responsible stuff. So there's a woman that does all these TED Talks about parenting. Mm-hmm. And so we're creating a series around her called Conscious Parenting. And when you think about it, being a parent in today's world is unbelievably complex. I mean, when I was a baby, my mother brought me home from the hospital and my grandma lived upstairs and my aunt lived next door. And my mother had a support system. Now, these kids go away to school, typically. They get married. They don't return to where they were born and raised. And, they get married and then they have a kid. And now you go to the hospital with a kid, you're in and out the same day. And they basically hand you this little thing. And they go, here you go. And you're like, what do I do with it? There's nobody there to support you. So, and then, it gets more and more complex, to think that, a lot of folks that go, I can't wait till my kids are, 18 and out of the house. No, you're the parent for the rest of your life. And, like it or not, you are. And, so you got school shootings, you got bullying, you got gender ID issues. It's so complex now that, we're developing this series that basically tries to help parents and kids with the realization that, these kids, it's not the old days. When I was a kid, it was children should be seen and not heard. And, if you did something bad, you got a smack across the head. Right. It's not today's world. Kids have opinions and they're people, and you got to treat them like that. Otherwise, they grow up to be depressed and find guns and shoot their friends in school. I mean, there's a lot of the problems that go on today, which are really all stem back to the fact they weren't brought up properly, or they weren't brought up in a house that cherished them and loved them and, did all that stuff. So, that's the one I want to see there. And again, because I think the world needs it.
Exactly. Especially in 2023. We've gone through just so much. And we need that assurance sometimes in life. Just saying, you know what? You got this. It's going to be okay. Give a helping hand. Share an encouraging word. It doesn't cost a thing.
Yeah. And, and just, Catherine Sellery, who's the host of the show, she does TED Talks all around the world. She really is a great expert. And, but, what we're doing is in the show, we're providing counterpoints. I'm bringing in co-hosts from different cultures. So, in one, I actually have a woman who grew up in a village in Nigeria, and she's got a whole different way of looking at bringing up kids than Catherine does. And it just makes an interesting discussion. And it's a discussion we need to have.
Gotcha. Most definitely. I must say, Larry, I had a pleasure in chatting with you. Oh my gosh, this has been the highlight of my day. When you talk with different people, because you talk with such passion about what you do, when people come to you and they're like, I'm just getting into this field, of entertainment, I want to be the best that I can be. And me included in this, I am an educator by trade. I've been in the classroom for 12 plus years. But now I'm venturing off into this new arena that I'm beginning to love, I love so well. What advice do you give to those individuals that come to you and say, I want to be the best? What can you tell me?
Well, everybody uses that phrase, follow your passion. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of the anti-passion person. I think my message is you got to be honest with yourself. Not everything you come up with is going to be brilliant. The biggest problem I see people have today is they think that whatever the idea was, they're going to do it. And you know what? The environment changes, everything, technology changes and stuff. So what might have been a good idea yesterday doesn't stay a good idea forever. And people get so locked into it because of their ego that they spend all their time focused on, I'm not going to give up. It's my passion, da-da-da-da. And they spend times on things that they shouldn't be spending time. The one thing we all have that's totally finite is time. We all have the same amount of it and stuff, and you got to maximize it. So, like I say, I wake up with 10 new ideas. By the time I go to sleep, I reassess everything literally every night, going, seemed like a good idea this morning. How dopey was that? And, once in a while. So I only put my time into those things that have a reasonable chance of success, where I see loads of people just hanging on because their ego will not let them just admit, okay, it wasn't so good. Next, and I do that a lot. I mean, I look at it and I go, oh my God, next, and I move quickly. And that's, I think, what separates me out from, most people.
I like that, Larry, because, I've been trying to find the words to describe how I feel about things in life. And that phrase just describes how I feel. I never want to have the conversation of shoulda, woulda, coulda. I want to say I did it, and this is how it happened. I didn't do so well, but this is what I learned, right? And I'm moving on to the next thing. I was having a conversation with my best friend, and I'm like, if I want to write a book, I'm going to write a book. If I want to sing a song, I'm going to sing a song. But I'm doing what I want to do.
Right. Yeah. And then, you sing the song, and then you got to be honest with yourself going, okay, that was kind of fun, but, should I really be doing this? Right. Was the voice that good or not? And again, it's just be honest with yourself. Not everything you come up with, everything you do is going to be gold. Get rid of the stuff that can't work and just focus on the stuff that's good. Because again, the thing that you have that's finite is time. Where you put your time on needs to be directed to the things that can be successful.
Definitely. Oh my, I could talk to you all day long, sir, but that means you have to come back, especially in talking about this amazing new academy that you've started as well. I'd love to hear more in depthly about that process and how that went. But that means you have to come back, sir. You got to come back.
You got to just get in touch with me, and we'll figure out a time where I can do it.
I love it, sir. How can the Fink fam follow you on social media?
I'll give you the secret. The only one that I do for myself is I do my Facebook page myself.
Gotcha.
And my Facebook is, most people call it a food blog because I put down like what I cooked that day. So I'm Facebook, Larry Namer, easy to find me. I try and answer everybody that messages me. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it takes me a day or two, but I usually am pretty good with answering. The other stuff, quite honestly, gets intercepted or hijacked by the folks in the office. And, I'm not sure what they do under my name, but they do.
I gotcha. And all your information in the description below as well. Thank you, Larry, for being with us. We appreciate you so much.
Take care, Michael. Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Hey, this is Nelson Estevez, aka Alonzo from Tyler Perry's The Oval, and you're now watching the Michael Finkley Show.
CTR Media Network is now accepting new podcasters to join our growing network that's reaching 350 million global listeners. Have you heard? CTR Media Network offers podcast production, podcast training, distribution, and product placement. Book us for your next event or schedule an interview with CTR Media Network podcasters today. To learn more, go to ctrmedianetwork.com.
I want to tell you that you have to be self-aware if you want to really grow. Like, you have to be conscious of not only the good things about you, but the things that you have to fix. And that's how we evolve as humans. And so for me, recently, I have hit a place where I noticed that I still have things to work on. And I've come to this when I really sat down and I think over myself. I evaluate myself. And so now when I evaluate myself, I look at situations, how I handle this situation, how is this thing going in my life. Did I handle that the way I should have? Was I more mature in this area than I am in this area? Like, really evaluate yourself and see the bigger picture and look at yourself and see if you want to be like that. See if this the person that you're picture of being. See if you being the person that you always wanted to be when you come to certain situations. And for me, I noticed that I had a lot of things to work on still. And sometimes we think we already got it made. We think we already fixed. We think we already whole. We think we already healed. And a lot of times we're not. A lot of times we're just on this journey. And sometimes you feel like you at your highest. Sometimes you feel like you at your lowest. But that's a part of the journey. But be always conscious of where you're at. Be always self-aware of where you at in your life right now, so you can make adjustments, so you can evolve, so you can fix, so you can heal, so you can forgive, so you can move forward. Like, that is why self-awareness is very important, so you can be aware of what you need to fix in order for you to go to the next level, because it's new levels every day, especially when you want to reach a certain type of height in your life. It's a new level. It's a new person that you have to become. You can't be the same person that you was on level 1 when you get to level 5. And level 5, to get to level 5 to 6, going to take you to be another person. So all these levels in your life, all these heights in your life, all these accomplishments you want, all these goals you want, all these dreams you want, all these things you want in your life, going to cause you to continue to become a new person. And you can't do that if you're not aware of what you need to work on before you get to that new height, so you can get there. So always be self-aware. Always be self-conscious.
And you will see.
Hey, what's good? It's Bashawn Mitchell, gospel recording artist, and you're watching The Michael Finkley Show. Keep it locked.
You will see the goodness of the Lord.
On the next Michael Finkley, from Tyler Perry's Have and Have Nots, actor Patrick Fawcett is with us. And from the motion picture 1,000,000 to 1, actor Michael J. Patterson. Next Finkley,